Transgender rights have been a conflicting issue for decades. They are treated differently and not given the same rights of others. This can make them feel unaccepted in society for whom they are. These people need to be given the same rights of others and not be feared economically because of their differences. They have no laws protecting them from being evicted, losing their jobs, or having any type of health care. Because of this, they become homeless. In federally funded schools, sex discrimination was prohibited. Transgender people are still fighting for rights and waiting for the day others consider them equal. Transgender rights have been a topic of debate for years now. Transgender people have been visible and actively fighting for their rights since the 1950s. Christine Jorgensen was the first American to publicly advocate for trans rights. Jorgensen was also the first to get sexual reassignment surgery. Because of her, more transgender people gained visibility over the next couple decades. Sylvia Rivera and Marsha Johnson also advocated for transgender rights. They started Star House in 1970, which stood for Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries. They advocated for homeless transgender women, especially women of color. The topic arose again in the media in early 2016 with the debate of equal rights for transgender people. Obama and Trump have both passed and tried to pass bills about transgender rights, some for and against these people. Transgender people have had to go through lots of struggles, such as harassment, discrimination, losing their jobs, and their homes. Transgender people have to deal with many people in our country who choose not to accept them. For example, those who are diagnosed with gender identity disorder are required to get so-called treatment, which enforces them to go back to their birth gender. This causes adults and adolescents to feel shame and guilt for being the gender they identify as. Not everyone approves of transgender people because they are different. For this reason, they are afraid of them. Transgender people feel isolated from society in our country.
Another topic of debate was the banning of transgender people from the military. Many people feel that it is outrageous and desperate to ban transgender people from the military. They also say that there are no military drawbacks associated with transgender people. For example, Trump states in a series of tweets, "After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised, the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity of the U.S. military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail." The 15,500 actively serving transgender people were and still are forced to serve in silence by medical regulations ordering them not to serve. President Trump is proclaiming that transgender people can no longer serve in the military because of the cost of medical bills. He declares that the medical costs would be tremendous and hard for the military to pay for, but the real cost would only be $2.4 million to $8.4 million. This is very small in comparison to all the healthcare expenditures at the present time. If transgender people could join the military, it would only have a minimal impact on healthcare costs. This is because there were already so few transgender people in the 1.3 million member military.
Transgender people also have to deal with being discriminated against. For example, in a bill, transgender people were not allowed to use the bathroom of the gender they go by. Instead, they had to use the bathroom that corresponds with their birth gender. Transgender people are discriminated against in public places such as work. Also, kids will tease those who are transgender and make them feel less important and not equal to their peers. They experience harassment, bullying, and denial of jobs or houses. Because of this, over 41% have attempted suicide. Harassment and discrimination is dealt with by most transgender people. In fact, 78% of transgender people in the U.S. experience harassment, mistreatment, and or discrimination at work from their bosses or other employees. They also have a lower income than non-transgender people in the country. Some earn less than $10,000 per year because they are transgender.
A 2011 report states that almost 20% of transgender people that were surveyed say that they have been refused a home or an apartment based on their gender identity, and 11% were reported evicted. Only 20 states have laws preventing this from happening. As a result of this, there's an increased likelihood that some people who are transgender will risk being or becoming homeless. One reason why transgender people are shunned away from places or have a hard time doing something is because they have to show their birth certificates. When people see that their gender does not match the gender they were born as, they are instantly discriminated against. 68% of people say that they have not updated their passports, driver's license, social security cards, or birth certificate because of this recurring problem. Even though people are celebrating the milestones and forward movement of transgender rights, there are still those who are opposed to transgender rights and are fighting against it because of the belief that is a threat to their cultural and family values.
Transgender people come from a diverse community representing all racial and ethnic backgrounds, as well as faith backgrounds. People who fit under the definition of the term transgender have existed in every culture throughout recorded history. Many Americans still do not personally know anyone who is transgender, but the number who do is growing rapidly. While advocates continue fighting for transgender rights, the change is not coming soon. Visibility and positive images of transgender people in society and the media continues to make a critical difference for them. But visibility is not always enough when it comes to the safety of transgender people. That is why people in our country need to help advocate for and support the transgender community, so that transgender Americans can one day have an equal chance to succeed and thrive.